Hello, welcome back. My name is Darson Grantham, and this is Jared. And on this episode or on this podcast, we kind of talk about the real estate market in general. We're both based out of Des Moines, and I'll let Jared kind of talk about what his business is. But I work with buyers and sellers in the more investment community in the central part of Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jared Huseman here, president of the Catalyst team, part of KB Commercial Realty here in Des Moines. Our team specializes in investment property, primarily 8plexes and apartments greater than 8 units across the state right now. So that's kind of our focus. Again, we're based out of Des Moines, but we have properties we're listing and marketing all across the state.
I don't know the statistics on Des Moines. I've done on the AirDNA, which is an Airbnb way to price out what your room is going to get. I have a 4plex and a 3plex that I've considered, Airbnb being one of the units. I've not done it. My personal opinion is it is another job. I don't want another job. Building a real estate team, building content on YouTube, on more podcasts, all of that, I don't want another job. But if I was looking for cash flow and trying to replace my job, Airbnb is where I would go.
So those are, super interesting facts in my opinion. I don't know enough clients who have utilized Airbnb, and I'm gonna hit this more from the multifamily perspective. My advice has always been to clients is, especially if they are actively managing, I think you hit the nail on the head there, that Airbnb is a very active role. And it has to be active role because no one manages Airbnbs in our market yet. As far as I know, maybe that's an opportunity for someone if you wanna go out there and manage Airbnbs if that's a business model. I don't know if it's big enough yet or not. And remember, some cities are very against it. But my model has always been that if you are an active manager, you're an active owner of apartments, only keep about 5 to 10% of your properties in Airbnb. So typically in our market, we see about 5 to 7% vacancy at all times. It's just a pretty standard constant that you're gonna have turnover in a unit. So my theory has always been, why not just turn those vacant units into Airbnbs? Now you raised the question, I think, and probably buyers do as well, anybody watching, if you're at 100 units and you have 5 as Airbnb, then you only are at 90% occupancy, do 5 more, stay vacant as well. I don't know the answer. I don't know if that's true or not. But what I can say is that if you do run those 5 units out of 100, let's just say, effectively as Airbnb rentals, and I don't know what the standard DNA of a rental per night is, let's just say $100
right,
to be even, you only need to keep those units full 9 days of the month to already be ahead of what the average market is for our rental market. So that's only 30% full.
right.
So if you could somehow keep those units full, those 5 units full for 15 days of the month, it could more than make up for the other 5 that are vacant consistently. So I'm not saying that I have all the answers or know all the stats on it, but it does seem like a very profitable way to make profit on top of it. My advice is don't make a whole model off from that from the beginning. So you mentioned having a 4plex. I think at that point you don't have the scalability to really do it because 1 unit vacant, if you have a bad month in the cold, you don't really come to Iowa in the cold January here to stay. It could be really bad for you.
Right. And
so
I don't know the answer to that because I haven't done it. I have heard people that in the winter doesn't bother their numbers. Yes, they're better in the summer, but the winter just doesn't bother the numbers. Again, I think it's more for someone that wants to actively manage. I think that's where this play makes sense. I'm also I'm not a process person, so Airbnbs, you need to be able to develop that process, develop the checklist, have the people in place to do the work so that you don't have to, right? If you're gonna do it, you can do it and develop your own processes, but I would outsource all of it. I'm not really good at creating those processes. That's one of the downsides of my personality, if you will. It's just I'm not good at that. So if you are good at that, if you like that building processes instead of finding the deal or managing a sale, it might be something that you'd be really, really good at.
Well, I want to tie into 2 points what you just said there, and this is important for anybody watching, is 2 things. Is one, what Darson just said is that he knows what he's good at. And that's something I encourage everybody to think about when you're investing is know what you're good at. Because I've seen too many investors try to do flips because someone tells them to do a flip. They try to invent an Airbnb or a rental, and they try to do something for too long, and they're not good at it or they don't enjoy it. So investors, real estate's a very, very large spectrum across the board, from commercial to whatever it is. So like figure out what you like and are good at, and do it, and know what you're good at, and then be able to figure out who can help you with the rest. So
my favorite thing to say is like, there's a million ways to make $1 million in real estate. Like literally, if you come to me, we can go through all of them. Like there are a ton. I probably should do a YouTube video on it.
Right.
Because there's a million, right, of different intricacy ways to make money in real estate. But you need to know like where your skill set lies. So
I think that's really important for anybody watching is track on that. And the second thing I want to say about Airbnb specifically as well is that this is about getting outside of our market, but I've got a couple of clients I've talked to who have done this in other markets, who have bought Airbnb properties in Miami, in California, and in Texas, and they're doing great. They're crushing it. They're doing awesome. Now, it's different in those markets, and you have to understand those markets. And in those markets, there are companies built around managing Airbnbs. We don't have that in our market yet, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to comment and let us know if you guys do know of one. We'll be happy to use this resource for our own clients and let them know, expand their business.
There's probably one-offs that do it here and there. That'd be a good. I can post that on Facebook.
Yeah.
I bet there is one, but it's not. There's not a large company that does
right.
it.
But I think that's, again, if you want to look at other markets and you do want to make Airbnb as part of your investment, portfolio, you can look at other markets for that. And typically, you're going to want to look to where there's some reason to be there, whether it's Nashville because there's the music, Vegas.
See, I know that's the typical thing to think about. I've paid attention to this pretty closely. Every single market has Airbnbs that work. Mm-hmm. Like Des Moines, no one comes to Des Moines except when they come to Des Moines to see family and don't want to stay with the family, right? Like no one. There's things to do in every city. Like I would just argue that what city doesn't have something to do or family, as long as the population is relatively decent. But Des Moines with 700,000 people in the metro, right? Like.
So what I would argue there, to Darson's point, is yes, he's right. But what I'd argue about is know your niche and know who your clientele is. Yep. Are you trying to market to families and friends of family? Are you trying to market to the corporate executive? So know who you're targeting, because just like apartments or a house, you can have certain type of clientele. You can have the blue-collar working class tenant to the A-class property out in the West Des Moines or Urbandale Grimes, upcoming professional, or a house. You have to know your tenant profile. The same with Airbnb is know who you're targeting, but you also have to think about how am I going to market them and target to them. Yep. Am I going to use Facebook ads? Am I going to use VRBO? Am I going to use Airbnb? Am I going to be in touch with corporations to get corporate executives staying here? Whatever it may be, I don't know the answer, but think through that process in your head if you are going to get into this process. I think it can work. I don't disagree with that. But my advice for me, I feel like would be to go to markets where you can have someone, you can copy their success first, and then try to bring to our market. Always trying to copy someone's success first and bring to our market. So again, 2 points I wanted to hit on was, some of my clients made a lot of money in Airbnb and other markets. They're doing very well with it. And then again, absolutely know what your investment criteria is and how you can specialize in whatever it may be.
Yep.
Hitting this with the multifamily perspective, there are companies devoted that aren't necessarily Airbnb, but they're devoted for developers, actually. So there are developers who build apartments, and they have lease up, and lease up might take 18 months, 12 months to get all these units filled.
So when you say lease up, I'm just going to dummy this down because it took me a while to really understand these terms.
Sure.
You're saying they're building 200 units, and they're saying, by the time we get the first 10 done, it's another 2 years before we get the last 10 done. So you're saying as they finish the units, you're saying they... So
from a development perspective, so developers, when you get an apartment complex built, we're going to use 200 units as an easy number. You have to have your certificate of occupancy, so your CO. That's called the CO thing. The CO is going to come in and say that all units are done day one. You cannot do just the development. It's got to be all done to get your CO on that specific building. Let's say it's all for sake. It's say 200 units, one building, so one CO, one certificate of occupancy. Those 200 units are now able to be rented. Let's say your study said, with our leasing activity and our staff, we're going to fill 20 units per month. We're going to have so many showings, and we're going to get 20 leases signed every month. We're going to have 10 months until we're at full occupancy. What Airbnb companies will do, some other companies, is they'll say, we've got 200 brand new apartment units right now in Des Moines, in Salt Lake City, in Nashville, whatever it may be, we're going to have 9-10 months before this property is full. Why don't we lease up 20 or 30 of these units via Airbnb while our staff gets the units full? And they'll usually do it by the floors. So you'll lease up the bottom floor first, second floor, third floor, fourth floor, if possible. That's not quite always the case. I mean, the best laid plans always go astray. But for a developer standpoint, using Airbnb can be very, very effective while you're leasing up your apartment units. Because if you bring online 200 units, you're not going to fill 200 units in 1 week or in 1 month. So you could utilize Airbnb to lease up some of those units, create revenue on a short-term basis until the apartment becomes fully stabilized.
Interesting. So my question leads to, if I have an apartment complex, a small one, or I'm Airbnb-ing a house near one of the apartment complex that someone's doing that to, that's going to drastically kill the demand for my unit.
Absolutely.
Do you know anyone in Des Moines that's doing this?
As far as I know, I do not know any developers in Des Moines who have yet to try this. But this is why you need to constantly be aware of the market. It's what you mentioned. I think if you are going to do Airbnb, it's an active role. It's very much a job. You need to be online tracking these things, because if you have a house next to 300 units, 200 units being built, and you're going to use some of them as Airbnb, that supply just got flooded the market.
Right.
And all of a sudden now your property becomes way less valuable as an Airbnb standpoint. So you need to constantly be aware of these things. As far as I know, no apartment developer has yet to try this in our market. I know there are companies, corporations that specialize in helping developers do this, especially in larger metros, Dallas, Phoenix, LA, New York.
Yeah.
They've actually went to developers and partnered with them on helping this.
On the front end.
No one's brought it to Des Moines yet, but whatever happens on the coast generally comes here. So it should be coming here. The other question I have for you, tying back to earlier, you mentioned that there was a group you jumped on for Airbnb, and you asked if anybody had success with it. Do you know, was it all houses?
I don't know that answer. Because no one said the addresses, no one said what they did, what exactly. I just said Airbnb successes. But I know that there's a couple people that have condos downtown that they Airbnb them out, and with long-term tenants, numbers would not make sense. But because downtown, there is not very many good, inexpensive hotels downtown Des Moines, in my opinion. So Airbnb and condos down there is very, very common if the association lets them.
Yeah. So that's something maybe we can check in. If anybody here does Airbnb for Des Moines market with apartments, love to hear from them. I do believe I have one client we both know who does use it once in a while. But otherwise, I don't have any apartments in our market that utilizes it yet. But I don't think it's a trend that's going to go away. I think it's something that you could definitely utilize, especially if you're an active owner.
Yep. And so with Airbnb, we always talk about the government side of things too, of what the city's doing, what they're stopping. I don't know all of those answers right now because it's so fluid and changing. I do know people are doing Airbnb in all parts of the city, all of the metro, all of the suburbs, whether it's legal or not, whether their neighbors telling them or not. I do not know all of the rules. So I would just caution you, when you do dig into that, if you're buying a property just for Airbnb, you need to go study the city minutes that have been produced over the last year and see if there's any short-term rental talk activity, what's going on there.
So I think that ties into a couple of things. Is one, always do your due diligence, especially when you're talking about new forms of business. At the end of the day, we alluded to it a little bit earlier, crypto is a new form of business. Airbnb is a fairly new form of business. Whenever you're dealing with a new form of business, there's going to be a lot of laws that have not yet been created. And this also means potential for massive profits. It also means that profit can go away very, very quickly should laws change. So just be careful that if you are investing in something and the returns are very, very high, especially like Airbnb, and I know some clients are making very, very high returns on this, be ready for that to go away very, very quickly. Yeah. So the more regulated it is, you might hate that, like houses or apartments. Less return, yes, but more likely to stay there. The higher returns you get, remember, that means there's usually risk associated with it. That return can go away very, very quickly. So always be cautious. And this goes beyond just Airbnb. That's anything. Whenever you're investing, you have high returns. Always be asking yourself, why and can this go away?
The answer is always yes.
Yeah, always.
I mean, you always have government regulation that will take things away.
Well, I think to that point is, and we can get into this more fun here, whenever you have the government see someone else is making a lot of money, their first question is going to be, how do we get some of that? I think that always comes back to is, how can we tax this? How can we put laws in place? How do we mandate and regulate this?
So go vote for the people that support the things that you care about. You can email me at dgrantham@kw.com, or my phone number would be 515, scratch that. I don't know my phone number. I don't know my realtor phone number off the top of my head. So just email me.
Yeah, I would say, so Jared Huseman here, president again of the Catalyst team, part of KW Commercial Realty. You can find us on our website, catalystteam.com. That's KATALYSTTEAM.com. I know it's long spelling. He's laughing at me here. Otherwise, feel free to just honestly Google me, Jared Huseman, JaredHusmann. I'm like the entire first page of Google. My realtor page is there with my email, my phone number, and you can just email me and get my phone number there. I'm a very unique name, thank God. It's not because I'm good, it's just a unique name.
You think you have a unique name? You got to try mine.
I'm just saying, like that unique name, just being a young person that's been out there forever. So on the first full page, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, my KW profile, whatever else is out there, it's all me. Just Google me and you'll find me pretty quick.
Cool. We'll wrap it up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.